A Bulgarian woman has been placed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list for allegedly running a cryptocurrency scam.
1, 2, 3. Applause, please.
Few people expect women to run billion-dollar criminal organizations, or to be callous serial killers hiding in plain sight. That's because there really are much fewer women than men who commit such atrocities. With 76% of all violent crimes being committed by men, the conclusion is simple. Men are 3 times as dangerous and violent as women. But that's not to say there aren't shocking exceptions out there. Only 11 women made it to the FBI's 10 most wanted list. But they're all as brutal as you think. And the latest addition to the list, Bulgarian crypto queen Ruja Ignatova, was only added in June 2022. So it's only fitting we discuss the most dangerous female gangsters still pulling the strings of the criminal world today. Ruja Ignatova. At first glance, there is nothing evil about Ruja Ignatova. She looks like your average rich woman in her 40s. But take a closer look at her charges. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, securities fraud. Ruja Ignatova became the 11th woman to make it on the FBI's 10 most wanted list for scamming wealthy investors out of $4 billion between the end of 2014 and 2016 in a Ponzi scheme under her company OneCoin. And when the heat got bad, she boarded a plane and disappeared in 2017 and has not been seen since. In 2019, she was charged in absentia, which means that there's a warrant out for her imminent arrest. The FBI is now offering $100,000 for information on her whereabouts, but suspects she may have had plastic surgery or altered how she looks in some ways. Ruja was born in a small town in Bulgaria on May 30th, 1980. But she never behaved like a small town girl. She craved attention, recognition, and most of all, money. She hated the idea that a small-town girl in Eastern Europe doesn't have great odds at making it big. She wanted to prove everyone who said this wrong. When she was 10, she moved together with her family to Germany. They were looking for better jobs and a chance at a fresh start, where they could be anyone they wanted to be. For Ruja, this was perfect. In Germany, she would only get more ambitious and self-assured. She was always top of her class. Education was a means to an end, she thought. The more she knew, the more she could use the world around her to fulfill her goals. After graduating from high school, she enrolled at the University of Constance. She went on to get a PhD in private international law. It was during her doctoral years that she began a working relationship with McKinsey & Company, a global management consulting firm. This is a hugely successful company and a name known across many companies. You can imagine the pride or amazement Ruja's old friends felt when they heard how far she'd made it. But just as strong was the shock when they heard she was arrested for fraud. That's right. In 2012, Ruja Ignatova was arrested and convicted of fraud in Germany. And she was not alone. Her father, Ignatov, was in on it too, and was also convicted. Ruja and her dad had acquired a company that went bankrupt within months. They'd pocketed a lot of money from it. The two were let off with a fine and a warning. But if you think this was enough to discourage Ruja from her schemes, guess again. 2 years later, she founded OneCoin.
1, 2, 3. Applause, please.
OneCoin was presented as a cryptocurrency revolution. Grandiose presentations showed Ruja as a crypto genius and encouraged people to invest in the best yet crypto scheme. Within a year, 1 million people from 175 different countries had invested a total of $4 billion. And Ruja kept appearing on stages, dressed for the Oscars, preaching her genius program.
It is really a pleasure for me to be here 1.5 years after we launched our cryptocurrency OneCoin. The sky really is the limit for us. We want to be the #1 cryptocurrency out there.
In 2016, she was a real big shot. There weren't many people in the tech or finance world who hadn't heard of Ruja Ignatova.
She appeared on the front cover of Forbes magazine. Except it wasn't the front cover of Forbes magazine, It was the front cover of Forbes Bulgaria, but in fact it was a piece of sponsored content that she paid for.
This was just the tip of the iceberg. She was much more fakey than this. She made sure she was seen at every VIP party, wearing million-dollar necklaces and hanging out with celebrities and high-ranking politicians. Then, she called herself the Crypto Queen. On her 36th birthday in 2016, she paid Tom Jones to perform a private concert for her at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. In October 2017, though, Ruja boarded a plane in Sofia, Bulgaria, and landed in Athens, Greece. After this, she vanished. Meanwhile, people started learning why as more FBI agents came on screen to talk about the giant criminal organization behind her crypto scheme.
Ignatova founded and ran one of the largest Ponzi schemes in history, peddling a fake cryptocurrency called OneCoin and raking in billions of dollars from her victims.
Everything was fake, bar the money she got from the unsuspecting investors. She would manipulate data to act like OneCoin was top of the crypto world and used new investor money to pay old investors small sums, convincing them it was real. Basically, it was a glorified pyramid scheme. In June 2022, Ruja was added to the FBI's 10 most wanted list.
A Bulgarian woman has been placed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list for allegedly running a cryptocurrency scam.
She is the most wanted woman in the world. With so many victims losing huge amounts of money, there is building pressure on the FBI and Interpol to catch and put this woman behind bars forever. As of April 2024, there have been numerous accounts describing Ruja somewhere around the Mediterranean Sea, Greece, Italy, Turkey, and North Africa. A working theory is that she spends most of her time at sea on a private boat. International waters are tough to police, and there's a better chance to escape justice if you can live your life on the water. Authorities also believe Ruja may have undergone plastic surgery. Many fugitive mobsters have done it in the past, so why wouldn't she? This would make her an even harder target for the FBI or local departments.
Our hope is that naming her to the top 10 most wanted fugitive list will draw attention to her and her alleged crimes and allow us to bring her to justice here in the United States.
Because of Ruja's earth-shattering scheme, governments around the world took stricter measures to ensure fake crypto schemes are nipped in the bud. But while Ruja's methods might be harder to achieve, there are always fresh criminals finding new ways to fool authorities. Enedina Arellano Felix looks arguably even more innocent than Ruja Ignatova. Whether you look at her wedding photo or her family portrait, there's no denying it. She looks like a kind, nurturing family woman, and in a strange and twisted way, she is. It's just that her family is one of the most notorious cartels in the world, the Mexican Arellano Felix cartel, also known as Cartel Tijuana. And Enedina is La Jefa, the cartel's queenpin. Enedina was born on April 12, 1961, in Sinaloa, into a family of traffickers. Indeed, Sinaloa is the same region that gave birth to El Chapo's infamous Sinaloa cartel. It was also Chapo's home state. As it goes in many cartel families, it's not long before the kids take after their parents. They often see no other way if all their immediate relatives are involved in the mafia one way or another. Plus, it's the only way to make the big bucks and pay zero taxes. Enedina's older brothers worked for their uncle, notorious drug lord, and Guadalajara cartel boss, Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo. They were violent men with short tempers, but Enedina went a different route. She went on to get a bachelor's degree in accounting and got excellent grades throughout her entire academic life. However, Enedina didn't use her specialization to exit the cartel life and pursue a legal career. In fact, she used it to their advantage. Enedina advised her 6 brothers and helped them with money laundering as the Tijuana cartel's financial administrator. But in 1989, the Guadalajara cartel was destroyed, and most of its members were arrested or unalived by DEA officials and rival cartels. So a few positions of power were up for grabs. Enedina started a heated relationship with Armando Lopez, who was very close friends with El Chapo. However, 2 of her older brothers assassinated Armando. Wait, why did Enedina's own brothers off her boyfriend? Well, they didn't want her dating a rival cartel friend, Talk about brotherly advice. This did not discourage Enadina from the cartel world either. It only motivated her to rise to the top of the cartel and show her brothers who's boss. So when El Chuy, the cartel's financial boss, died in 2000, she took over his position. Eventually, she did gain the upper hand over her brothers. When her brother Eduardo was arrested and sentenced to life in prison, she took over as the queenpin of the Tijuana cartel. But Enadina, or La Jefa, is very different from other female gangsters. She is not the Black Widow or Shantae Henderson. That is to say, she is not the violent, vengeful type who takes lives for pleasure. She pretty much embodies Zainab Salbi's quote on women. We are the first to forge lines of alliance and collaboration across conflict divides. Women are indeed known for mediating conflicts and choosing peace over violence more often than men. But the same can't be said about most female gangsters and queenpins. Since the 1990s, Enadina has been known for her rational, methodical approach to business and for her peaceful negotiations. She never swears, she never orders assassinations, and her focus is on bribes and the illegal substance trade. Sure, she's not exactly a saint, but her quiet, discreet approach has saved her skin and her sons all these years. She remains in the shadows despite her huge role and presumed net worth. Even with her name known by every big law agency, she is not a huge priority, as she does not cause as much damage and harm as other cartel kingpins. Enadina is portrayed by actress Mayra Hermosillo in Narcos, Mexico. When she was asked about her role, Mayra confessed she was initially scared of playing a real queenpin. Yes, I was very scared. At the beginning, I was very scared because you don't know what the cartel are thinking. You don't know how they will take it if they watch it. I don't know. It's very unknown. It's a very unknown world for me. I was talking with my therapist, and I said, I'm very scared. I don't know how to do this, and I don't know the consequences of making it. And she told me, Mayra, don't worry, you will never know that kind of world. Even if you're doing it, and the creators are writing it, none of you will really know what's going on in that world, because it's a very dark world. One of the show's location scouts, Carlos Portal, was murdered by the cartel in 2017, and his death remains unsolved. So this only amplified Mayra's fears. But the Tijuana cartel seems to be okay with the way Narcos, Mexico portrays it, and there have been no more incidents in the last few years. Bernardine Dorne was born Bernardine Ornstein in Chicago, Illinois, in January 1942. She was still a young child when she and her family moved to Whitefish Bay, an upper-middle-class suburb of Milwaukee. Her father, Bernard D. Ornstein, changed the family surname to Dorne in an attempt to highlight Bernardine's mixed Jewish-Swedish roots. Bernardine was one of those all-around great students, popular, excelling at her academic work, and ambitious and responsible beyond her age. She was a cheerleader, treasurer of the Modern Dance Club, member of the National Honor Society, and editor of the school newspaper. After high school, she attended Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, for 1 year before transferring to the University of Chicago, where she graduated with honors with a BA in political science in 1963. She even went on to get a PhD from the University of Chicago Law School in 1967. Here's where it finally ties into her crimes. While attending law school, Bernardine began working in support of civil rights movement leader Martin Luther King Jr. and became the first law student organizer for the National Lawyers Guild.
These are leaders of the nationwide youth organization that calls itself SDS, Students for a Democratic Society. It has more than 300 chapters on the college campuses of America. And local leaders in convention here at the Chicago Coliseum, June 1969, take the major credit for the rioting, mob actions, takeovers, and burnings on college and university campuses throughout the nation.
The intention was honorable: support marginalized people and racial justice. But the SDS methods were extreme, to say the least. They would start riots, set fire to innocent people's vehicles, and instigate violent street fights, encouraging other students to take arms and rain hell on anybody they felt was not on their side. And Bernardine was the mastermind behind it. In 1969, she also started the radical Weather Underground movement, taking its name from a Bob Dylan song, Subterranean Homesick Blues. The group embarked on an armed campaign against the US government. They would bomb symbols of American imperialism, and many people would die, falling simple collateral damage to what they thought was the only way forward. In the early 1970s, Bernardine was put on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list. But Bernardine enjoyed the attention and used this to radicalize even more young people. Her name on the list, she said, was more proof that the US government needed to fall. She was a hero after all. Now, she was a martyr. Yeah, she spoke like a proper cult of personality leader. For some, she was a symbol of resistance against oppression. For others, she was an entitled destroyer. For years, she evaded capture. She moved from city to city, changed her appearance constantly, and used various names and fake IDs across the country. However, she couldn't stay away from her beloved project, Weather Underground, so she kept in touch with fellow members as low-key as she could, joining other secret underground movements to overthrow the government. At this time, she was also married to a man named Bill Ayers, who wrote a radical manifesto titled Prairie Fire. Eventually, the two also started a family, while promoting violence in the name of the greater good. Bernardine was on the run for almost a decade, but in 1980, she emerged from the shadows and shocked everyone as she handed herself in to the authorities. According to some sources, she wanted a more stable life for her kids. Life on the run doesn't really provide a child with security or stable relationships. Bernardine didn't really have any close friends either, bar her husband. According to other sources, though, it was her way of regaining back control. She decided when she handed herself in. In her eyes, she still won. She admitted to lesser charges as part of a plea deal and ended up serving a mere 7 months in prison. For many people, this was an outrageously small sentence, considering the consequences of her violent groups. The same people argued that, yes, she knew perfectly well what she was doing when she handed herself in. Not only did she get out of prison after 7 months, but she used the rest of her time to promote her beliefs and change the public view around her and her movement.
We live here. We are responsible for making it a good society.
After her release from prison, she pursued more law studies and became a law professor at various universities, specializing in social justice and laws. She remains a controversial figure in American history. On the one hand, she was the mastermind behind a violent movement, encouraging others to take arms and solve issues with violence. On the other hand, she sought to make a positive change, and she used the last 3 decades of her life to improve laws surrounding children from disadvantaged backgrounds. Perhaps all people are complex beings with conflicting sides, and Bernardine Dorne is the perfect example of that. FBI's Most Wanted today. Here's a quick run through the FBI's most wanted female fugitives today. Evelyn Martinez is currently wanted for murder, attempted murder, and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. She was born on December 30th, 1991, in Torrance, California. She has the word Socorro tattooed on her stomach, the words South Los tattooed in an unknown location, and the letters LA tattooed on her left arm. Thought to be residing in Mexico, Evelyn also has good connections to the area and is a known gang member who is alleged to have involvement in a murder and a few attempted murders beginning in 2009. On December 28, 2009, Evelyn Martinez allegedly drove her boyfriend, Stephen Aguilar Medina, to a rival gang area in Los Angeles. Then, she stopped her van and Stephen approached 2 individuals standing outside a home. He shot both, unaliving one of them. A federal arrest warrant for her arrest was issued by the United States District Court, Central District of California, on March 3, 2010. That means she was just 21 at the time. To this day, however, she escapes justice. Caris Ayala has ties to El Salvador, Mexico, and Guatemala, and could be hiding in any of these 3 countries. She was babysitting a 5-month-old boy in her apartment when she called 911 to report that the boy was unresponsive. After arriving in hospital, it was determined that he had suffered a severe head injury and was placed on life support. He was taken off life support on October 26, 2012. It was a devastating moment for his family. The more authorities wanted answers from Caris, though, the more she avoided them. And when it became clear she was responsible for taking the poor boy's life, she fled the country. A felony murder warrant was issued for Ayala on October 24, 2012, and later she was charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. She is number 8 on the FBI's 10 most wanted female fugitives list. Irina Kaverzina was born on July 18, 1986, in Russia. She came to the US with big plans, much like Ruja Ignatova. Within a few years of her working in the States, she was charged with 6 counts of aggravated identity theft, aiding and abetting, and conspiracy to defraud the US. Considered to be an international flight risk, she is also accused of working within the St. Petersburg-based Internet Research Agency's US Focus Department. She allegedly posted and monitored content on behalf of the IRA and is accused of using the personal information of actual Americans without their knowledge. She is thought to have opened PayPal and bank accounts while making efforts to reach significant numbers of Americans to interfere with the United States political system. A federal arrest warrant was issued for Irina Kaverzina on February 16, 2018. As of 2024, she remains on the run and there are no known sightings of her. Josephine Sunshine Overacre is among the top female fugitives on the FBI's most wanted list, and she keeps evading justice even though her crimes are as old as 1996. Overacre has a slew of charges, including the destruction of an energy facility, the arson of a vehicle, and arson of a building. She is charged with conspiracy to commit arson of United States government property and of property used in interstate commerce, while she is known to operate in a domestic terrorism cell. She has been involved in over 17 incidents, including 5 counts of arson, 1 count of attempted arson, and 1 count of destruction of an energy facility. The crimes committed were in the states of Oregon, Washington, California, Colorado, and Wyoming, and were all committed in 1996. She is thought to be part of several organizations, including the Earth Liberation Front and the Animal Liberation Front. She has a large unknown tattoo on her upper left arm and a very large bird tattoo stretching from her right upper arm across her upper back. These are important signs, as it's likely she has changed her appearance since the time an arrest warrant was issued for her. She has also used various aliases, including Maria Rochelle Quintana and Lisa Rochelle Quintana. Her whereabouts are unknown. One of the most dangerous female gangster fugitives is Sherry Laverne Dalton. There is a staggering bounty reward of $100,000 for information leading to her arrest. Currently believed to be living in Cuba, Sherry Dalton is wanted for her alleged involvement in the Brinks armored car robbery, which occurred on October 21, 1981. Over $1.6 million was stolen in the robbery, and 2 police officers and 1 security guard were killed. Dalton is involved with the hip-hop music culture in Cuba and has been known to go by a variety of aliases, including Cherry Cotton, Betty Carter, and Laverne Dalton. Considered to be armed and dangerous, Dalton is charged with aiding and abetting, bank robbery killings, armed bank robbery, and obstruction of justice and interference with interstate commerce by robbery. Also having ties to the Virgin Islands, she is known to speak English and Spanish. At the top of the FBI's most wanted list lies Ahlam Ahmad al-Tamimi. Don't be fooled by her big eyes and innocent-looking face. She is one of the world's most wanted terrorists. In August 2001, she was involved in a devastating suicide bomb attack at a pizza restaurant in Jerusalem, one that claimed 15 lives. Both the Rewards for Justice program and the United States Department of State are offering up to $5 million for information that leads to her arrest and conviction. She is thought to go by as many as 13 aliases, speaks Arabic and English. Her charges: conspiring to use and using a weapon of mass destruction against a United States national outside the United States, resulting in death. Tamimi is the first Islamic terrorist from the Arab League to face criminal prosecution in the United States, and in 2021, an arrest warrant issued by Interpol. She is currently thought to reside in Jordan, heavily disguised and always on the move. It's a disturbing thought that some of the world's most dangerous criminals are hiding in plain sight. We assume they look menacing, but sometimes they are the most innocent-looking women. Anyway, thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on these female fugitives? Do you know others? Let me know in a comment, and before you leave, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell button. See you next time.